of your cultural inheritance. Now we remain again in Azerbaijan, and I would like to invite Mr. Daniel Pommier Vincelli. So please, the floor is yours with the presentation of a publication of Shusha in collaboration, and we also thank the Azerbaijan embassy in Italy for the attention for this for our festival. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you.
You stay here?
Here. So I don't have slides with me. I don't have a presentation. But since the fact that I have the opportunity of being here, maybe I'll try to capture your attention anyway. First of all, let me thank, without any formality, really from the deep of my heart, the Foundation Del Bianco for getting me the honor, the privilege on talking physically in this room. I've been in many congresses and academic events in my career, and I think is one of the most beautiful places I ever been during my work time. So really thank you for this, and really thank you for the tremendous work you are performing. You were right. The meaning of this event are very fair, because it's life beyond tourism, which means that tourism could bring culture, could bring a dialogue, could bring inter-societal understanding. And as a scholar on Caucasian issues, as an Italian Western scholar on Caucasian themes, issues, I'm very grateful that such a great and so well-instructed foundation sheds its attention to the Caucasian region. Caucasian region needs mutual understanding. Now, you mentioned that we are not here talking politics, it's right, but now things are getting better, I think, in the Caucasian region. Without going into detail, we hope that differently from, unfortunately, for what's going on in Ukraine, now the Caucasian region is reaching a definitive mutual understanding, and maybe a peace treaty will be signed very soon between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and we always pray, being religious or not, we pray for this. Shusha, you heard the presentation of these brilliant students. I think that you felt how passionate they were, how brilliant they were, how so eager in a positive way to make you to understand Shusha, because Shusha is something precious, engraved in any Azerbaijani soul. What is Shusha? Shusha is an Azerbaijani city in the national territory of Azerbaijan, in the region, if you want to call this, in the area of the Karabakh, which is a western region of Azerbaijan bordering the actual Armenia. Now, thanks God, Shusha, the city of Shusha, has back to the world, because for 30 years was isolated cause of an occupation, a military occupation, etc., etc. Maybe you know very well this. This book is an experiment. Is the first book ever published, not only in Italian, which would be insignificant, but in a Western language, to be published about the history of the city of Shusha. So until now, so far, only books in Russian, Turkish, and other Eastern languages were available. So I and my colleague, an Azerbaijani historian, Elchin Akhmadov, try to tell the story of the city in a very general way. It's not an academic book in strict sense with plenty of footnotes, and even though it has a good bibliography, it's sounded but understandable, accessible to a general public. We had the luck of getting the preface of a famous Fiorentino, of a very a celebrity, not only in Florence but in Italy and Europe, who is Professor Franco Cardini, that needs no presentation, being the number one middle-age historian, I guess, in Europe, if not in the world. And he's very passionate and very very attento to, I can say, I don't remember the word in English, to what happens in the former Soviet space. So he gave us the gift of a preface. The book, like Julius Caesar, the book is structured in three parts. First is a general history of the city. The city was founded at the end of second half of 18th century. So we emphasize the synchronicity of a fortress, because Shusha was a fortress, built for military purposes. So we recalled how different was the East from the West. In the same years when Western Europe began the Industrial Revolution, the sovereign of Karabakh, Panali Khan, founded a kind of middle-age-like walled city with a fortress on a hill, on a mountain. Then became an important trade route between Central Asia and the Black Sea, so Europe. So was a plane for caravans. So try to imagine the classic image you have of an Asian caravan coming from the desert and resting in a place with fountains and waters and buildings and palms. That was Shusha, except the palms, because it's a mountain city. And then in 19th century became the cradle of different civilization and became the cradle of Azerbaijani nationhood. The Azerbaijani nation feeling is very ancient, like the Italian, but only from, like us, like we Italians, only from 19th century he found a structured framework for independence, for statehood, for renaissance. And Shusha was the beacon, the cradle of this Azerbaijani renaissance. And I came to the second part of the book, which is an account of the famous Shushanians, the inhabitants of Shusha, because you can't imagine how many poets, artists, singers, musicians, architects, journalists, so everything new in Azerbaijan basically was invented in Shusha, like the first opera, the first symphonic music in the Middle East, in the Eastern world, the first satirical magazine ever printed in an Islamic country was imagined and printed in Shusha. So we count some, in Italian we say medaglioni, coins of portraits, small coin portraits of this famous Shusha. Many, 50% are musicians. And then there is a graphic part dedicated to Shusha, how was until Soviet times, how was unfortunately during the occupation, and how is becoming now, because the government of Azerbaijan is giving a lot of resources, a lot of commitment to restoring the city. And restoration and tourism go hand in hand, and now this restoration can count on innovation, on advanced technology, of approach very respectful of the identity of the place. Many Italian firms are involved in reconstructing Shusha, so we have here put some picture of the reconstruction, so linked to cultural event, like there is a famous musical festival in the outskirts of the city, which is magical. And I'd like to conclude. I invite you to visit Shusha. The city is under renovation. Also, the Armenian church is being renewed, with the buildings belonging to the Azerbaijani identity being dilapidated by the war. But it's a magical city because it's a garden city. It's a garden city. You can't realize whether you are in the center of the city or in the outskirts, because nature and urban and houses and urban development go hand in hand, and now it's becoming a pilgrimage place for Azerbaijanis, because it's part of their national pride. Their soul is engraved in their soul, like Rome or Florence for us, more or less the same thing. And I invite you as a tourist or professionals of tourism to visit this beautiful place. There are few copies of the book who are available, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you.